Welcome back to my clinical room. I wanted to talk today about how we can successfully manage rebellion in young people. And I guess the age range I'm talking about here is anywhere from 10 and up. Some 10-year-olds are very much little kids, and other 10-year-olds are very much adolescents. So these strategies do work really, really well across the tween and teen and adolescent periods. So I would like to start by saying that most teenagers know they have a good deal and don't want to disobey their parents. Adolescent children who have been raised from 1 to 10 years of age in a constant, loving, firm, kind, fair, authoritative fashion. Now, authoritative is that parenting I advocate that I've talked about lots here on this channel and in all my books and online courses. Those kids that have been parented in this way are likely to have established a healthy sense of identity and are actually really unlikely to go through an overly rebellious phase as an adolescent. Rebelliousness generally develops in children of rigid or authoritarian parents, and also in those of lax or neglecting parents, as these kids were either ordered around or were largely left to their own devices. Either way, they missed out on receiving crucial parental feedback and an opportunity for connection and reciprocity. Children of authoritarian parents who were very rarely given choice, and those of us lax and neglecting parents, those are the kids that feel largely ignored or those that are overprotected, aren't given a chance to get to know that quiet, wise voice inside of themselves, and instead have grown to only listen to that outside voice. So as these kids grow, they continue to listen to the outside voice as they're in their adolescent period. And as their focus shifts from us being the parents to their peer group, the voice they listen to is that of their peers. So if you've parented from an authoritative stance where your relationship with your child was relatively strong throughout their pre-adolescent years, then it's more likely that you're going to get through adolescence and the adolescent rebellious phase relatively unscathed. However, if this hasn't been the case, this rebellious phase could be long and protracted, with many young people not emerging out the other side well into their 30s. If at this stage you're feeling the weight of parental guilt or failure, please, please, please remind yourself as often as possible that it's never too late to adopt a new approach and to change the relationship with your child. This may sound extremely cheesy or hard to believe, but I do say this based on my experience with, I want to say, thousands and thousands of families who have come to me facing a broad range of challenges and in whom I've witnessed some incredible change. With time and possibly professional help, you can strive to develop a deep, connected, compassionate, and very, very mutually satisfying relationship with your young person. This is a transitional phase, and you and your teen will pass through this to the other side. So there are some ideas to consider when we set boundaries with adolescents. Again, just like I've been saying, we want to operate from an authoritative parenting style rather than a neglectful, indulgent, or authoritarian bossy style. We want to regularly check in with ourselves and consider any ways that we might be over-controlling our teen or young person. Our young people need both freedom and direction, and the balance is always shifting and needing to be reset. Adolescents need to try on new feelings, they need to experiment with new looks, and they need to practice just being themselves without our involvement. Give them space to discover themselves, but still set boundaries in the context of love with warmth and firmness, and be clear on your expectations. And generally, we want to move gradually from a firm, directive stance to one of a consultant. I'm not directive with my young people as they are 17 and 21, but I'm very much their consultant. Remember, you can't control your teenager in the same way you could as when they were younger. But as a consultative parent, we're giving the message that you're on their side, and that helps them on their journey to maturity. We do have to be prepared to negotiate and discuss boundaries. So, for example, endlessly saying to a young person, honey, your dirty clothes should be put in the dirty clothes basket. We want to value their opinions and be prepared to change our mind or make compromise. This takes a bit of learning, but we can do it. We need to see their desire for independence as normal and gradually hand over the control to them. In this way, you'll slowly transition your teen from parental control to self-control. And ultimately, that's what we want, self-control. Remember, there is no fixed timetable, and young people mature at different speeds. So we want to practice patience and non-pushiness with our young person and support them to develop at a speed that's appropriate and natural for them. Remember, requests and or rules are in constant flux, and many are open to consultation and reevaluation. I'm not reevaluating those rules as we go, because we don't want to be too restrictive in our boundaries. Our adolescents need to learn from their own mistakes. Requests stick inside young people's heads, and they exert a constant pressure, a steady pressure that remains as long as we stick to our expectation. As such, adolescents can do nothing to change this pressure until the request is abandoned by us. So I'll give you an example. So if your young person stays out past the agreed time, and we want to show our power through our expectation as opposed to a punishment. So the language around this might be, honey, you stayed out way past our agreed time last night. 12:30 is just too late for you to be coming home, and I really expect you home earlier next time. I need you home by 10:30, and I count on you to be home by then in the future. Now, what's your adolescent going to say? They're going to say, you're so unfair, it's too early, you can't stop me. And you're just going to say, you're right, I can't stop you, but 10:30 is the time you're to be home. Our young people do respond to this. Remember, trust builds trustworthiness and supports adolescents to learn responsibility. Allow your teen to practice making their own decisions about issues that will not jeopardize their future, and give them freedom of choice in areas where they can express their individuality, whether that be their choice of clothing, their hairstyle, or awfully how they spend their money. Consequences remain important when expectations aren't followed or trust has been eroded. However, don't be too firm or too lenient. Sometimes experiencing the logical or natural consequence of their behaviour is more effective than the limits imposed by us parents. I wish you well on this wild ride in parenting well your young people.